let's go ahead and talk about this big one. NFTs are a scam, proclaims indie games store itch.io. Now, I quote retweeted this tweet that they sent out. This article is actually by WCCF Tech. We're going to get into it. I think you guys already know my opinion on NFTs, specifically as it pertains to gaming, but I think they're missing out on a couple key things here that we should mention as well. So while I may agree in certain terms surrounding NFTs, I don't necessarily agree with the full-on blanketed statement of they're kind of useless and a scam. The debate surrounding the implementation of NFTs and blockchain technology in games is getting increasingly hotter, following the huge backlash received by AAA NFTs initiatives like Ubisoft Quartz, Stalker Metaverse, and MetaWorms. GSC, Game World, and Team 17 eventually backed down, while Ubisoft is still moving forward with its blockchain plans, and so is Konami. Meanwhile, even Electronic Arts CEO Andrew Wilson made a U-turn on the topic. We talked about that last week. 3 months ago, he said NFTs would be the future of the games industry, whereas in the latest earnings call, he downplayed their importance in the company's plans, likely as a result of all negativity directed to the aforementioned initiatives. The most recent stand taken against NFTs comes from indie game store itch.io. Just yesterday, the company created in 2013 by Leaf Corporation called them out as a scam in a series of tweets. A few have asked about our stance on NFTs. This is coming from the tweet. NFTs are a scam if you think they're legitimately useful for anything other than the exploitation of creators, which is interesting, financial scams, and the destruction of the planet. We ask that you please reevaluate your life choices. Also, F any company that says they support creators and also endorses NFTs in any way. They only care about their own profit and the opportunity for wealth above anything else, especially given given the now easily available discourse concerning the problems of NFTs. Look, I'm not going to come here and tell you guys that NFTs are perfect and that they should be implemented into gaming. I think we've already talked about this. Some of my issues that surrounding that is specifically in-game items tied to NFTs. While it does sound like a neat idea, there are multiple issues. One being taxes that we talked about last week. Another one, of course, just being the poor implementation of economic systems within video games in the past and how they don't really function in the favor of the player. So that's kind of where my argument against NFTs integrated into gaming specifically function. If we're talking about a platform, though, that distributes software to the public, a big key point that I think that they're missing out on here is the implementation of NFTs to track the ownership of different titles. This could be very advantageous within especially the indie game scene, and could help, of course, independent creators or developers of video games actually benefit more than the platforms that distribute it. And this is where it kind of seems a little bit maybe nearsighted, because depending on like what research they've done within NFTs in particular as it pertains to gaming, they could be swayed to, I guess I understand this point of view. However, specifically when they say the exploitation of creators, NFTs typically solve the problem for creators to stop them from being exploited. And usually it stops them from being exploited by a single centralized platform that distributes their software, i.e., a storefront like itch.io, similarly to like Steam, etc., where we have obviously already had in the past issues with a super high cut of the percentage of the sales of any given title on different platforms. In the case of Apple, for example, being all the way up to 30%. So if there's a better way to distribute software and prove ownership, then I don't see why that wouldn't want to be implemented. And I could see a use case for this specifically within NFTs. So I think that they're missing the grander scheme of NFTs and they're maybe kind of focusing on this microtransaction portion, which I agree with shouldn't be implemented into games, at least most games. So I think that is also going to be very genre specific. If we're talking about like a collectible card game, like you have Magic the Gathering Arena, etc., it makes sense that you could tie that to an open marketplace and decentralize the process of trading, etc. Now, MTGA is a little bit different. Maybe we would apply that more to MTGO, which is the Magic the Gathering Online, not quite nearly as popular, but a lot of that has to do with correcting the in-game ecosystem so that they can basically build more decks. The players can build more decks, and that's kind of what NTGA did to make it a little bit more user-friendly. But there are projects like Gods Unchained, etc., where you do tie the collectible card to an NFT, and it proves ownership, etc. And I think that that is important as an option for, in particular, that specific use case and genre, right? And maybe that goes out later into things like massive multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft, whatever, to track it for a particular item. But those are a lot harder to actually implement, good in-game economic systems that actually add to the player experience and don't detract from it. So this is kind of where I sit, and here we go. We'll go ahead and finish a little bit of this. Don't expect to see games using non-fungible tokens on itch.io then. They're already banned from Steam, whereas Epic Games decided to allow NFTs and blockchain on its store, even though the company behind Fortnite does not plan on any implementation in its own games. That doesn't mean that the industry push towards non-fungible tokens is over anyways. GameStop has recently partnered with Immutable X to establish a $100 million fund in tokens that will be used for grants to creators of NFTs. And see, this is obviously, in my opinion, just another way in which it appears to be benefiting the creators of the NFTs, as well as potentially in the future the developers of the titles, at least to a certain extent. Definitely not a blanket statement either direction, as I feel like specifically itch.io here is trying to make it out to be, right? We could also address the financial scams. Sure, that's their second point, right? That one I can agree with. Obviously, we have scam problems within crypto all over the place. Speaking of which, I'll never ask for your number or call you or ask you to invest in anything cryptocurrency related. So be careful in the comment section below. This is where it's at. Now, like we've said before, the argument would be with great power comes great responsibility. And that power that I refer to is the power of the individual to control their financial position. So that's kind of where I get that idea from. So let's get into the destruction of the planet portion. Obviously, very harsh terms. It's inaccurate at best, right? But what they're referencing, of course, is specifically going to be the environmental impacts of mining cryptocurrency. And the thing that people seem to keep missing is the economic incentives placed on cryptocurrency miners. What is your number one incentive as a cryptocurrency miner past the revenue? That's going to be your cost. And that cost is primarily going to be power. So you are incentivized as a cryptocurrency miner at any level to reduce the cost of your power. The best way to reduce the cost of your power at this time is moving into, of course, renewable energies. And that is because of the incentives that federal governments have put in place, as well as the access to it growing higher and more across, right, more ubiquitous. And because of that, what you have is essentially the potential for cryptocurrency mining specifically to greatly enhance the timeline for getting to more renewable energy sources, etc. And this is because obviously the thing that drives technology in general is going to be that economic incentive, right? If you have that incentive to go ahead and become more renewable, etc., then you're going to go that route. We can see this across the cryptocurrency mining in general. Not only did Texas just go through a cold period where, if compared to last year, the power would have shut off, and it didn't, thanks to Bitcoin mining and its investment within the Texas power grid, but you also have things like Intel coming out with low voltage ASIC miners. And that is specifically because they are incentivized to reduce the amount of power an ASIC miner takes compared to the amount of production it provides. And these are key points when we are specifically talking about the environmental impact of mining cryptocurrency. And I would argue that due to the economic incentives, the fastest way to get to renewable energy is by embracing cryptocurrency mining and allowing those companies to further research and implement renewable energies into their operations. That's how I see it. So I don't agree with them as far as that goes. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.